Good afternoon. This is John Mills, and this is my Wakelet presentation for our final project in LBST 1102. And so, first off the bat, I want to mention I do have the flu currently, so if I'm not sounding too clear or I start coughing, I apologize. Okay, with that all being said, I chose to do my presentation on The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and I chose to do this because I had read the book in the past, back when I was in, I believe, 7th grade, and the book was, for me, one of the favorite books I've had to read for school. I really loved it. And so whenever I found out there was a movie, and that was on Netflix of all places, I was eager to jump in and watch it. And so with that, I will start. So the background of the movie is it's about a boy named William. I'm going to butcher some of these names, so I'm sorry. Kamkwamba. And so he grew up in Malawi in the town of Kasungu. Or actually, he grew up in Wimbe, a town right near Kasungu. So in the film, the people of Malawi are undergoing a crisis of droughts. There's a lot of severe droughts, and that has brought along a lot of severe famine and just unrest among the population because the government has introduced this rationing plan where they're rationing what little food they have in like really small portions, to the people. And William's family is actually farmers. So he grew up on a farm that is in the village of Wimbe near Kasungo, as I mentioned. But as he was growing up, he never really had a passion or desire for farming. He did what he had to do to help his family, but what he loved doing was fixing radios, and he did that for residents of his village. Sometimes it was friends, a lot of times it was family, just all sorts of people in the village. And so he would spend a lot of his free time looting like the junkyard for electronic components. He spent a lot of times in the junkyard, as we see in the film and in the book. And as we see in the film, there's actually one scene in particular that's very moving. It's where the father, I'm going to butcher this again, Chiweto Ejiofor, who plays Triwell Kwamba, he's seen in the fields where he's picking up like the dry dirt and just realizing how bad it is that their crops are not going to grow. So, doing this, the father realizes that they are really going to run into a food problem. And so, one quote, I can't remember if it's either from the movie or from the book, that really sticks with me, is I remember his father telling William that they had to eat they went down to like 2 meals a day, and then they went down to 1 meal a day. And I remember his father decided that they should eat the meal at nighttime because he said no child, no person should have to go to bed on an empty stomach. And William would have to wake up at like really early hours, not having eating breakfast or anything like that, work out in the fields, then he would go to school. And then eventually he had to stop going to school to help his father, help his family. And it was just a bad situation overall. So this is the windmill in the movie. I don't know how accurate this is. I mean, it looks pretty accurate compared to the one in the book that was described. I know he used the bike parts to help with powering it, but he found all the parts like in junkyards, and he built it himself. Like it wasn't like he had some previous knowledge or had some engineer come in and build this. It was a lot of him finding books in the library that he could, and taking designs from what he could find and talking to people like his former professor, and he built it. So this is the book cover. If anyone has watched the movie or didn't watch the movie, I really recommend the book. It's extremely, extremely well done, in my opinion. I personally like it more than the movie, but I normally do like books more than the movie than the movie. And this is just a tweet I found of a lady. I mean, I'll let you read it, but it took ages set on a film last night with my young children, 9 and 12, and she's just talking about how inspiring and unforgettable it is, and I definitely agree with that. The story is just moving. So as I mentioned earlier, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is a film directed by Chiweto Ejiofor, and then he stars as Triwell Kwamba, which is the dad of William, and it's based off the book written by William and Brian Mueller, which I mentioned earlier as well. And so it's not like a documentary or anything. It uses actors playing as the real life people. So they're like, William is not like himself in the movie. I know he did have a hand in creating it and like helped influence the story and stuff like that, but he is not in it. But one thing I really want to touch on is the acting by Chiwetel Ejiofor and Maxwell. Chiwetel Ejiofor as the father and Maxwell Simba as William. They were just phenomenal. I believe also this was Maxwell Simba's first ever like acting role, and he just does an incredible job. I mean, he's just incredible as William. So the film, it tells a different, it's different than the book because obviously you can see things, you're not just reading it and using your imagination. And with that, I think it's able to use the symbolism better, specifically the windmill, which, in my opinion, I believe represents William's determination, his perseverance, and self-education, because he taught all of this himself. He didn't learn this from, like, he wasn't told how to do it by someone else. And he, through trial and error and through a lot of effort, dragging things back from the junkyard, um, and just like scavenging through the junkyard to find things. I mean, he was able to build it basically all of himself. I mean, some people did help him, but a lot of it was his idea, his design. And then another cinematic element that I think that the film does a great use of is the moving camera. For example, like there's scenes like the scene I mentioned earlier with Trywell the father, like putting his hand in the dirt, and then like the camera kind of zooms around him, and then it shows you his face, and just there's not much words going on there. It's all just through his acting and his emotions he portrays through his face. Emotions he portrays through his face, and it's just fantastic. And then there's other scenes like when William is like walking through the village or biking or talking to people like some of his friends, his classmates. The camera kind of like follows along with him, and it really makes you feel as an audience member, as a viewer, that you are in the film with him, that you are in the village, that you are seeing all this in first person. And then it also makes use of like the beautiful scenery and imagery of Malawi. Um, they just show like the background images and some of the shots of like some of the landscapes and sprawling landscapes and just beautiful shots. I mean, there's a couple in the film that are just, that makes me want to go visit there and just see this place. Um, it also does bring a sense of dread and hopelessness. Like I know there's one scene where William is William's father, sorry, Trywell, is in the back of a truck, and you see there's a dry field, and you see all these kids running up with like buckets and stuff, like begging for food and water from the people in the back of the truck. Or there's another scene where you see all the people lined up in the rationing line that the government has set up, and they're all holding like pots and pans and baskets and all that stuff, and you just see how long the line is because the camera like sweeps along with it, and you just see how many people are waiting there in that line, only for the government officials, army officials to come out and say that there's not going to be food for everybody. And then you see a lot of unrest break out and fighting and trying to get food because obviously people are trying to feed their families, so they're not going to take it well when someone comes out and tells them that there is no more. So this is just a review I found, and it's a very comprehensive review. I liked it a lot. I did disagree with some of their critiques of the film, but I think overall it was good. So after watching the film, I've really come to understand just how like culturally significant the story was. When I read the book back in 7th grade, obviously I really liked it and I thought it was a great story, but I didn't really look into too much of what this has done for Malawian culture or anything like that. But it has had a really good impact on the country itself. I mean, it's not not the biggest thing in the world, but you know, he's brought more awareness to the struggle that the people of Malawi go through, and there have been a lot of like more aid efforts because of that. Um, like he's brought, I guess, awareness to their problem. Um, he's helped put Malawi on the map, so to speak. And then like many people that will see the story might send aid or find other ways to help out. And then also for the people of Malawi, it's just a very inspiring story to see one of their own to do something like this, build a windmill, create electricity, help people in the village. It's helped just inspire others to look out for each other. And it's a great message of what perseverance and hard work can do and how you can help each other. So this is just some charts I found about how it helped the Malawian culture and African community themes in The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. It's a great article I'd recommend watching. And this is a picture of William himself at his windmill. So you can kind of see, as I said earlier, it's pretty similar to the one in the picture from the movie. So when I finished watching the movie, and then like reflecting on my observations of the human condition as portrayed in the film, it really reminded me of how I felt when I finished the book and how inspired I was, and how it just moved. I mean, it's a really touching story to see someone overcome these hardships and to accomplish what he did. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, it really kind of gives me a new understanding of familiar responsibilities. I mean, my responsibilities might be do some chores inside or help my dad fix a fence on our farm to keep our horses in or something like that. And to see his responsibility was to feed his family, it's eye-opening. It's really eye-opening. Nothing else beside this. And then this is just a video about the director, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and then this is William right here on the right. And it's just them talking about the story and going into it, and that's a very interesting video I would recommend watching. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's definitely a movie I'd highly recommend watching. I would recommend reading the book, and it's just, overall, it's a great story. It's very inspiring, and it's just, it's a good thing to know about. Thank you.